assassin, the assassin, the assassin.
Say my name, goddammit!
Shubham, firstly, a warm welcome to you on Filme Shilmy and congratulations on The Father and the Assassin.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. I must say, you're obviously playing Nathuram Godse, the man who killed Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. So tell me, Shubham, how aware were you about his story prior to the play?
Interesting. Not very, which I think is one of the things the play communicates quite well. It's one of the first lines of the entire play is, "It's about time you know who I am. I too am etched in India's history," which is, which kind of captures exactly how much I knew about him. I kind of like knew his name and I knew he killed Gandhi. And I was like, wow, that's the guy. But actually, what's really interesting, I think, about the timing of the play is in my family home, we Indian politics is quite important because we actually are all first generation immigrants. Like I was born in India. So what's happening in India now, we're finding ourselves talking more and more about it, and his name and the political parties that he gave birth to and the ideologies that Godse gave birth to. Conversations about that started to sort of ping around more in my family household. And so I started to hear more about him and more about what he represents even before I knew about the play. And then the play arrived and I was like, oh, wow, this is his life. I didn't know about his life story. I was more aware of the ideologies and the politics that him and others like him sort of gave birth to and basically are really taking like metastasizing now in India, I think.
Right. I'm surprised you've not actually heard his last speech, because I think his last speech that he made, I think before he got taken to jail, I think that was very, very insightful. I mean, of course, murder is always wrong, but I think the way he talks about the ideologies and how, again, Gandhi had overlooked a lot of other genocides in the process of his Ahimsa movement. I'm quite surprised you didn't read that or you didn't hear about it. So I guess you must have been quite reliant on the script that was given to you, right?
No, I definitely know about that. Since I was talking about how much I knew about Godse before I knew the play.
Gotcha.
Since the play began, since I started rehearsing, I know about that. That's a very fascinating. It's like he spoke. It's very interesting. Actually, it's its own sort of political debate that they let him speak, because he spoke for like an entire day, sort of defending himself. And like it's in the history books, it's sort of an interesting question as to why he was sort of allowed to speak, because the record of his speech, and who is to say how true it is reported, but the record of his speech is something that has caused and allowed and given sort of fodder to the movements going on now, really. It's interesting that the judge that let him speak was sort of aligned with that side of politics too. So it's very interesting. It's its own kind of its own kind of piece of political history.
That's what democracy is about, right? Like if the left wing can speak, then of course the right wing has the complete rights to as well, though, isn't it? So that's exactly what makes India the democracy that it is, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's the purpose of the play. Is I assume that a lot of, maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of the national theatre going audiences will be sort of left leaning. And the whole point of the play, and it's even in the text, is once you get to know my story, once you understand me, then you'll celebrate me. It's sort of a challenge to an audience. And the main engine is that of empathy. And I think that's the intention of the playwright, is in this divisive world right now, it's far too easy to say things like, oh, well, they're a Brexit voter, so they deserve to die, which is actually a terrible thing to say. Do you know what I mean? But like people who don't share the same beliefs as we do, we're getting to a very divisive place right now where we're sort of seeing them as almost inhuman, as like an enemy tribe, and it's just having a different belief, you know. And that's the whole point of the play: is can you understand why someone like this was driven to do something like that? And once you can understand, once you can empathize, then you don't see someone who has opposite beliefs to you, who's done things that you would never do, as a complete separate entity, as an alien.
Right.
You can, that understanding and that empathy is the only thing that will bring the divide together.
Okay, cool. Now, I mean, I've seen the play. I was at the press night. And I must say, the way you all put it together in terms of the creative aspect, it was fabulously done. The production aspect was top notch. But I think I also remember, I think on National Theatre, I think the director and the producer or the writer, I think they had come for a little talk, and I think it's on the YouTube channel of National Theatre. And I had a bit of a watch about that. And apparently, I heard that she had taken some creative liberties and some sort of creative input to the whole story. It's not necessarily a retelling, but more of a reimagining. But obviously, as you know, Shubham, I mean, as an Indian yourself, you know, the partition is still very, very, very sensitive to all of us. Even the people that the key figures that the play focuses on, I mean, be it Savarkar or, of course, Nathuram Godse or any of the other characters, they all still, even Gandhi himself as well, they still are very sensitive to a lot of people. So, I mean, how appropriate do you think it is to take creative liberties with such sensitive and thorny subjects? I mean, because I really don't like it when someone messes with history, because I feel agar wo history hai to history rehne do and let people read up upon it, you know. And it's become a bit of a thing now where people are questioning the past and, you know, the sort of atrocities faced, especially if you were Hindu, because you're seen as the majority and all of that. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that. How appropriate do you think is it to take creative liberties with history?
I think that's a very interesting question. I think you have to ask yourself what the point of what we're doing is. And if you're making a piece of political theatre, you are making an argument. And first and foremost, you're telling a story. Now, a lot of the reimagining happens in the gaps in our knowledge. There is not a lot recorded about Nathuram Godse's life. And everything that is recorded, everything that is recorded is actually set down truthfully in the play. So it's more the gaps which are sort of reimagined and sort of filled in for the purposes of storytelling. And the idea is rather than, I don't think the responsibility of this play, the writer or the director or anyone that's part of it signed up to telling a piece of history, because then you're just sort of giving an audience a history lesson. You might as well go to a lecture. It's more to argue a point and to tell a story and to sort of ask, why did he do it? It's a why done it. It's an exploration, right? So what the writer was doing was trying to unpick the kind of psychology and the consciousness of the man. What might lead, and also to find it, to make it universal and relevant to now. So what is it that is causing what's happening in Russia and Ukraine? What is it that makes a gunman in America enter a school and shoot down? What is it that gives birth to an incel movement? Because it's not, I don't think a piece of story is effective if it remains specific to what it is. Often you have to go very specific and personal in order to make it universal and relevant to anyone that can watch it. And what you say about partition is very, very interesting. I think it's like the Holocaust. I don't think it's possible to truly represent or capture through any medium the horrors, atrocities of a tragedy like that. And all you can do through the medium of art is, I think, shine a light through a glass pane and abstract it. you can never. You can never. So, and I don't think the play tries to do that, or I don't think that's the brief at all. So I think it's very important to take creative liberties, because in a way that's all we can do.
And I think that's why I asked this question as well, because again, like, there's been a lot of like, I'm sure you probably know about the Kashmiri Hindu genocide that's happened in 1990. So that's why I'm asking this question, because again, there's been, and when this film called Kashmir Files came out, there was a lot of issues about it being a propaganda film. People had even negated the fact that a genocide of this nature happened. I think that's why I wanted to get your opinion on that. In fact, obviously, because there was a bit of a comical take on the character that you did. Like, you obviously used to interact with the audience, and it kind of became a bit of a, in a way, a bit of a pantomime as well, I guess. That's sort of a style of performance in that way. So what was the intention behind that? Was it just to perhaps appeal to the Western audiences because they wouldn't understand the full length of the history, or what was the reasoning behind that, do you think, the whole comical take? Because I was quite surprised. I mean, I was expecting a very intense play because of the nature that we're seeing. So,
well, I mean, what the character of Godse is trying to do is convince, or might try and make the audience understand why he did what he did. And when you're trying to explain to someone what you did, if you're trying to get someone on side, often humor is a tactic you use to lure someone. And if you look at characters like, let's say, I mean, I'm not sort of likening the two of them, but say, take Trump, right? A lot of people disagree with his politics and what he represents. But one of his tools of rhetoric is humor. He's very funny. He's very charming. And I think often with people, politicians, problematic people, divisive people, this is one of their main tools. And I think that's one of the intentions, certainly, that I have, and the writer and the director have, is to make an audience question themselves. Like, wait, I'm charmed by this murderer. What? I'm laughing at these jokes. Like the second half begins with, so you voluntarily returned to the company of a murderer. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Do you know what I mean? That's the whole thought behind it. It's like, haha, what is it that we're doing here?
Ah, okay. That's a very interesting take on it, because I was thinking, because I was a little bit, I'm not going to lie, Shubham, I was a little bit taken aback when I saw the comical take, because as it is, like, I feel like, like, our community gets targeted quite a lot and gets hated quite a lot, because if we speak up about our rights, it's labeled as right wing and fascist. And I was just like, oh my God, like, this is a comical take. I hope people like take it seriously. Do you know what I mean? So I'm glad that you explained that, because it really makes sense with what you said there as well. But I think it's wonderful, Shubham, to see you do so amazingly. Like, I watched A Suitable Boy, and I loved you in that. I think you were fantastic. It was so good to see our very own British Indian homegrown talent like do so well on such a huge platform. But it must have been not easy, I think, for you to get into this stage where you're at of your career, right? So, I mean, how challenging has it been for you to actually break the barriers and get that equal opportunities that we're all fighting for in the West?
In many ways, it's been great. I feel like I've been very lucky, but in many ways, I'm still working hard to sort of graft the career that I'd ideally like. Like, I think for the next thing I'd like to do, I'd very much like to, just play a part that isn't about centrally being Indian, because I think that's very nice. And I think it's very important to explore stories that are centered around the British Asian or the Indian experience. But I also am, a human. And I'd like to just, like, oh, maybe what's it like to be in love?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the next stage for me. But I've it's been hard work, but fruitful work. I went to drama school, and it was I was very lucky. I got cast at the Globe straight after graduating, and so it's been a mix. It's been incredibly lucky and incredibly easy, and people have been very receptive to my work. But also, there are barriers where you're going, okay, now I'd like to do something maybe not in an Indian accent.
I mean, you're not on social media, and I think everyone is so heavily reliant on social media, including myself nowadays, being a content creator. It's just become the norm now. So how tough has it been for you actually? I mean, this would be very interesting to know actually about acting in social media. I feel like a lot of the times like it really does become a platform for people to display their craft. So how challenging has it been for you to get a break nowadays without your digital footprint being there?
I think I made that decision because I'm very wary of what social media is becoming and what it represents, and I think it's sort of for me. It's sort of it's sort of I just feel like there's a machine, there's a sort of media machine that can be quite toxic. And there's cancel culture and all of this stuff right now, and what's going on in India. I think it's a very dangerous machine that is beginning to be weaponized. So I was very wary of that, and I don't want to be part of that. I don't think my job as an artist has anything really to do with that. So for me, it didn't actually make it hard. It sort of simplified things for me, because I'm lucky enough to have an agent, and my agent's job is to find me work, and it's a sort of official route to work. It isn't about like what brand I am. So it's I think all that stuff becomes relevant, but at its core, it's acting isn't that dissimilar from being a sort of, I don't know, plumber. Right. There are the nuts and bolts. You got to learn how to do the piping. You got to learn the lines, and you got to say the lines, and you got to say them loud enough so everyone can hear them, and so that everyone believes you. Like, that's it. It's a job, Right.
That's great though, and I think that's what I love about theater artists as well, is the fact that they're so grounded. I spoke with Led Dubé recently as well, and I said the same thing to her, is the fact that theater artists are so grounded in their craft, and that really does come across, and I get that from you also, and I think that's wonderful to hear. I think on a final note, the Shubham, post The Father and Assassin, because I mean, you're a fabulous actor anyway. I mean, like I said, I loved you since A Suitable Boy, and your performance just really tops it up for me in terms of my opinion of you as an actor.
Thank you very much.
So going forward, what other projects can we look forward to from you?
I don't know. I actually no, I'd be fascinated to know myself. I'm auditioning around, trying to find as I said, like an interesting project that isn't maybe necessarily about me being Indian. So yeah, I'm excited myself. I don't actually know. There are some pipeline, but nothing confirmed, but nothing I can say, unfortunately.
Right. But because you're saying,
I just got told by my agent I can mention. Yeah, so I'm going to be. Do you know the book Shantaram?
Yeah, of course.
It's so Apple TV are doing a series of that, and I'm one of the leads in Shantaram. That will be coming out, I think, later this year. I don't know.
That is incredible. Oh wow. I mean, I remember Mira Nair was supposed to be directing this at one point in time.
Shantaram through like, I don't know, 10 iterations of directors, writers, accounts, and actors, and finally it's being made, and I was lucky enough to be on this one. So it's
wow,
good.
that is so wonderful. I mean, that's huge. I mean, I think it's wonderful. I think because you were saying that you want to do roles which are not necessarily Indian, I guess that's also because you want to, as an actor, explore different cultures and different sort of, and not be bracketed. Because I think that's what happened. That's what used to happen a lot in the West. I feel like if you were Indian, you would get cast in an Indian role, and that's about it. But I think that's what you want to change the narrative, like how Dev Patel did with David Copperfield, right? I mean, I just wanted to clarify that point, actually.
No, that's exactly it. That's, I think, what Dev Patel with David Copperfield is amazing. You know what I mean? That's exactly the sort of stuff that I think needs to happen. And it was like, it's just David Copperfield. It's Dev Patel. So what? Cool.
Exactly. Plus, that's it. That's lovely. But look, Shubham, I mean, I would love to ask you more about Shantaram, but I presume you're probably not allowed to talk about the role just quite yet.
I don't know. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, right. Never mind. But we'll definitely catch up again, definitely near the time. I would love to chat with you about that, actually. It'd be wonderful. But look, Shubham, I think it makes me very happy whenever I see someone who's of British Indian, background, do so well in the West and break barriers. And I think through this show, Father and the Assassin, regardless of which political ideology one comes from, one cannot deny that you are a terrific artist. And I think that's what we get to witness on stage, is some wonderful performances. And I'm very proud and very happy to see you do so well. And I can't wait to catch up with you super soon.
Thank you very much, and it's very nice of you to say. It was nice to meet you.
It was lovely to meet you too, Shubham, and I hope to catch up with you super soon.
See you, man. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.